0944 That's 0809 You can as well send a message through Twitter with the hashtag I said locker room. Business Express 981. Twitter handle is at Smooth981FM. On Instagram at Smooth981. You can send messages to WhatsApp 0809 Rotus.
Thanks. Speaking of locker room, yesterday on Marketplace, we were talking about the business lessons from the Champions League win of Chelsea. The guy, Tuchel, he came in, didn't have it, well, he just worked with the team he had, he worked with the budget, and Abramovich never met him until the day they celebrated the Champions League win on the pitch. So we're talking about how, managers higher up shouldn't interfere and managers should just work with what they have, So yes. Interesting on sports. But no, but what we're talking about today, Ghana surprised markets yesterday by cutting their benchmark interest rates. I think, Olayemi, I think it was 100 basis points or so. Everybody expected them to keep the rate where it is. Any idea, just to kick off with that before we get to Nigeria? By the way, we touched on Mali yesterday, Ghana today. Just for our viewers, we're going to be touching on other African countries and what's going on in other African climes, including Nigeria as well. So, Olamofe, what was, I guess, your take on why they cut their benchmark rates yesterday?
All right, so thank you, Rotus. Like you said, it was quite surprising. Expectations were that we're going to retain rates at current levels. I mean, at 14.5 before the meeting they had. But what we saw was a 100 pips cut to about 30.5%. One of the arguments the central bank brought forward was that inflation in the near term should be muted. I mean, if you look at the inflation numbers for April, it came down to about 8.5, which is about a 13-month low. And given the fact that we've actually seen the COVID-19 pandemic react to the economic performance globally, Ghana inclusive, what they are looking at is to see how they can, as much as possible, support growth. Again, going by last year, expectations for inflation, like I earlier mentioned, is supposed to be muted. So, of course, it gives them a lot of leeway to kind of support growth now. Although what they have said is that should they see any spike in inflation, maybe they may have to revisit their policy. But again, exchange rate for Ghana has been relatively stable, in a while now. And given the fact that we also have high base numbers for last year, you would expect that inflation should be in the near term muted, as the central bank actually said. So I think the idea is more growth driven for them. As much as possible, they can support growth in the economy. Because the growth numbers for 2020 was quite fragile, very, very marginal. And then you probably will not say that they're entirely out of the woods. So a lot needs to be done, just like we've seen in other countries as well, to support growth numbers. I think that's really the drive for the cutting rates.
Thank you. I would give my right arm to have inflation at 8.5% here in Nigeria. But it's very interesting seeing how the different central banks across Africa are dealing with their own macroeconomic issues in addition to the pandemic. All right. Thank you for that. Here at home, the Bureau of Statistics, they released a transportation reports over the weekend. Cost of transportation for buses, 72% year-on-year increase. Motorcycles, I think, was 86% or so year-on-year increase. How much higher can these rates keep climbing? What do you make of where transport costs are going? And deregulation of the downstream sector, that still hasn't happened. So I still think of that as this big elephant at the back while transport costs are rising. What do you make of it?
Hi, Olamofe, can you hear us?
All right. So, yes, very well. So, I think if we look at the trend of transportation fares since the start of the year, we've seen significant spike. On a year-on-year basis. If you look at the month-on-month numbers for April, you see that it wasn't as much, as in just quite marginal. Again, it all ties down to higher PMS price. We know we saw a number of PMS price increases last year. Of course, and that's if you compare that as to what we had it a year ago, it's quite significant. As at the month of April, what we had was about 27% year-on-year increase in PMS prices compared to what they were as at this time last year. But apart from payments also playing a role in the spike we've seen as well. You also agree with me that the bottlenecks that comes with movement has not really been it's not entirely over. Again, you agree that inflationary pressure is also a factor. I mean, if you go for maybe maintenance of the vehicle of your vehicle, you will see that the price it comes at is significantly higher than what it was like at this time last year. So I wouldn't think it's just a PMS factor alone. A number of factors are accounting for that. But it's kind of interesting to see that it's not just an April number. You've seen that since the start of the year, you've seen significant spike on a year-on-year basis. And again, that speaks to inflationary cost pressure as it impacts on vehicle materials, maintenance, and how much they have had to make more money to actually keep their business up and going. PMS price increases, like we saw last year, significant number of price increases throughout the course of last year. And like you mentioned, deregulation again on the table. To what extent are we going to see? I mean, what the outcome is going to be interesting to the market, because what it tells us is that we should expect that the northward increase in prices, I mean, on a year basis, should increase further. Should it increase further? I mean, the Nigerian government actually came up with a 408 naira per liter. I think that's far high compared to the 162, 65 levels that we are seeing. So if that actually surfaces, of course, one thing we cannot take off the table is that we should expect to see higher price increases because of one, the burden on government is quite massive. I think it's not sustainable. Two, we start to see recovery in crude oil prices in the global space. Even the CBN is moved to adopting the IFX window as its official exchange rate. So, of course, everything points to further price increases for transportation costs going into the year.
In fact, OPEC Plus is meeting today. I think they're going to have another decision on outputs for June. Oil, I think, has touched, if I'm not mistaken, oil has touched $70 a barrel as of last time I checked. So, or $69 or so. So, no, it's 70. So $70.09 a barrel. So oil has touched 70. So it's just the dynamic of continues to climb. Yeah, revenue increases, but the rising cost of the landing cost of fuel. That's those days. Anyway, this Labour government, it will be interesting to see what happens there. Real quick, there's also from transportation rents. Some analysts believe that we could see rent in a number of commercial cities across Nigeria, like your Lagos and others, rise in the second half of the year. What do you think could be pushing that?
I think first on the table would be the spike in the cost of building materials. Like you've seen in recent times, you've seen that because of the macro uncertainties and instabilities, you've seen higher cost of sales for most of the cement players. And as much as they're trying to actually preserve margin, we've seen them kind of increase price marginally, of course. And if you also look at the pressure that comes with the valuation as a whole, I mean the wholesalers and the middlemen, we've seen that the price it comes to the end user is quite high. I mean significantly higher than what it was last year. And so that's one factor we have to bear in mind as to what's driving the higher cost of rent. Apart from that, like you mentioned, a lot of people are coming to the cities. Like you see that as a place where they have a lot of opportunities and it's more like a supply demand dynamics here. So you see a number of people coming to the cities. The available rent, available property for rent is not as high as the demand for rent, and they kind of push up prices. And they actually give agents, that's something I need to mention as well. Agents, the opportunity for them to actually increase their own charges as well. Of course, it was surprising that the cost of agency almost equal the cost of rent in Lagos, and that's quite massive. And so it's more like the highest bidders getting the rent at the end, getting the apartment at the end of the day. So all of these factors are still very much in place. People are still moving into cities as much as possible. We're not really seeing so much housing units being constructed. I'm not seeing so much construction. I mean, so much properties being made available for these people. And again, the cost of building materials is on the increase. So it's very probable that we expect that the cost of rent going forward to the year should continue to increase. Again, if you look at what has happened, in recent times, it hasn't been any better year on year. I mean, it's been increasing, and so that trajectory is not expected to change anytime soon. Especially bearing in mind that now we are seeing further devaluation. I think it's maybe not devaluation, but that is what it is if you ask me. I mean, if now is moving from 379 to 411 or 410 levels, what it means is that it's more burdensome for a lot of companies who have to import their materials, especially for the real estate guys as well as the real estate as well, who have to import some of these materials in their some of their building materials. So it all points to higher cost of rent. Going to the year, it doesn't look any better anytime soon, if you ask me.
On the matter of agents cost, I thought that was capped at 5%.
Well, that is what it should be, but if you look at what it is, it's not exactly what it should be. A lot of people will tell you their experiences that it should be 10%, 5%. But at the end of the day, by the time you ask for the breakdown, you can kind of see that it almost mirrors the cost of rent, especially because a lot of people are willing to even pay that high of a price because they actually want that property that you want. And so it becomes highly competitive, and it gives room for them to actually go beyond formality.
There should be a regulation on this, really, because that's creating another room for exploitation, and people are being
a regulation on monthly rents. That's what we need. Is monthly. That's the one I want to see. Monthly rents, not annual. Monthly.
Initially, when you proposed it some years ago, Rotus, I thought, I'm like, this guy, why are you bringing Oyibo ideas for us? But it makes more sense. Honestly,
yes, it does, because I think things are quite hard, and it's harder when you have to also go through the paying higher cost of rent than you should have, and what you should now have paid for.
Especially because now most premium accommodation facilities are the ones that have services attached to them, and these services would not exist if the government was providing the required resources and infrastructure that we need. Power. Right, good roads and all that, but you have all these residences, secluded in estates that are acting as a government on their own, providing the resources and facilities for themselves. So that's a major issue.
Very true.
Benga Kamo sent in a message, says, when a catch-22 situation, what should government be doing? Because I just don't know. Nobody should be moving house now except you're moving to your own place. Yinka Bolu says, Rotus, does Governor Sanwo-Olu know how much rent is at Ikeja and Ketu?
To be honest,
he says, I'm asking this because I was watching Bloomberg, and you see politicians and policymakers discuss rent with accurate figures in parts of US and UK. It just sounds somehow, because it shows a level of connection between the people and the government in those climes, something we clearly do not have here. He says, let's not forget that monthly rent usually leads to more expensive rent overhaul. Dipo says the cost for commercial properties wouldn't significantly increase because businesses are considering more online options to do their business. But increase in building materials and inflation directly affects residential properties because there is no option for it. Everybody needs a house. And that's absolutely true. Thanks a lot for your messages. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olayemi, as well.
Thank you.
Olayemi Olamofe, analyst at the ARM. And you guys check out www.armstocktrade.com so you can pick up your securities there conveniently on your phone or on your computer. Olayemi, thank you so much.